Benjamin. Today I am pretty much gonna be doing some puzzles. The puzzles I'm gonna be doing are, how do I put it? Basically to check out your like calculations and intuition mainly. That's pretty much what I wanted to focus on today. And the way I'm gonna go about it is explaining my thoughts of like the puzzle and why I first have it before I even do any calculations. So that's like the intuition part is pretty much like, hey, this is what I'm looking at first, and here's why. And then after that, calculate. So kind of trying to mix them together a little bit, and it's very important for games, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead here real quick and share this to the group, and in a second, all right, I share it to my group, and then I'm gonna share it to my Facebook, and then I'll get going. Sorry about that. I thought it would be immediately, but okay. I thought someone was on. I didn't realize that it wasn't. It was me that was on. So I was apologizing to myself. All right. So I already shared it to my group. Okay. All right. I'm pretty much ready to go in now. All right. Let's go right ahead. All right. The first thing I noticed is whenever I see this right here, my intuition from all the stuff that I've learned already, it tells me back ring checkmate. That's the first thing it tells me. So before I even look for anything, that's pretty much my first thing I'm going to look for because of that. So every time you see this, whether it's a puzzle, whether it's a game, you want to look for back ring checkmate. That's the first thing. Okay. In this case, there's a rook here. So you can't do a back ring here anywhere because the rook got all that stuff covered. But in this case, you just take it. He blocks, you take it, and it's mate. And that's pretty much it. And that's how back rank checkmates are probably the first ones you should learn. Those are the first checkmates that I probably should get used to. Here, in this case, the king cannot move forward. Instead of 3 pawns, this time there's only 1 pawn, and your pawn defending. So your pawn is basically preventing the king from coming up. And same thing, it's check and then checkmate. It's a back rank checkmate. All right. Here, I noticed these 2 pieces and the king here. So my first thoughts and my intuition is because of where the king is and what 2 pieces are there, can I do a checkmate very soon? In this case, you can. Now, the checks that the queen have is I look at first usually. In this case, are not useful. It would be taken if it goes here. It'd be taken if it goes here. Here, it's not defended anywhere. So then obviously it's not the queen, it'd be the rook. And you have to calculate it through. Otherwise, you might make a mistake. Same thing for a game. If you just think you have the answer and you just want to go right ahead, that's great. But if you didn't calculate it fully, well, then you can blunder. And that's where people a lot of times blunder their tactics and games. It's like, oh, I got it, and bam, and then that's it. So you don't want to do that. That's check. He'll move up. He can't go anywhere here because of the queen. So he can't go here because of the queen. So that'd be check. He's forced to move to the only square he has. And then that'd be mate with the queen. Right next to each other. So it's good to visualize. All right. And checks, captures, and threats. First and foremost, I was looking immediately at the f7 square. But the queen's under attack. So it's like there's a very good chance that it puzzles the queen. Also that my king's under attack, so I can't do anything until my king, and it doesn't make sense to do anything other than to basically capture. But if I capture this bishop, the queen will capture my knight, and I can capture back, he can capture, and I can capture. So that's basically I win a piece, but I don't want to move immediately because I'm winning a piece. Like, what if I can do better than that? So my next thing is to calculate something different. Now I don't want my king up because I'll lose my knight, and I can't take the queen. It's protected. So the last spot is king to f1. And after that, the queen still can take here. So yeah, and it's just useless. Okay, so basically it is capture and you win a piece. So it's important to look through things to prevent mishaps. I can just do them all immediately, but there's no reason to do that. You can see a video where I've done that before. I have other ones. Now, first thing I noticed is that the king is cut off, and he only has one square available to him. So if I put him in check around here, that would be checkmate because he has no squares available to him. And in this case, he can't. So my intuition is like, oh, he's blocked off, and then I'll attempt to calculate, and then it's like, okay, now how can I do this? This is a check, and we checkmate. So you guys kind of have to learn how to do both together. All right, I'm in check. Now I don't want to immediately run away. That's a bad idea. Like when you're when you're in check, the first thing isn't defense and running away. Your first thing should be to counterattack or offense, and in this case, it works because you can take the queen. That's basically a counterattack. He's in check. You're no longer in danger, and he's very much in trouble. So, yeah. All right. I know it's the king and back, so my first thought is going to be looking for checkmates. That's the first thing I'll be looking for. Now, in this case, the king is blocked off by both rooks, and his pawn's in front. So the king has 0 squares. So if I put him in check, that'd be checkmate. So now I can calculate. So that's kind of my initial thought. And then I kind of look around and realize that's the case. And here, taking the bishop is taking the pawn, and that'll be check, and that's checkmate. All right, white to play. No, it's black to play. Okay, okay. I was a little confused. Right, black to move. All right. Right now, this is confusing because I keep trying to think of a checkmate against the king against his own pieces. All right, I gotta get over that. All right, it's my move. So right now he has checkmate in 1. So pretty much anything I do at all, I have to put him in check or I have to stop it. One or the other, right? But in this case, I don't have to worry about it too much because the queen has it covered. So it's really not that much of a danger. All right, now the next thing is his king. I can call check. The king would have to move back. After that, I need to do something drastic or serious because, like I said, this would be mate in 1. So if I call check and he was over 1, I'm trying to figure out what would the best way to go about it be. Because if I just call check, he can just take off the knight. And if I try to take a knight, he can just take off his rook. And if I try to take off the pawn, he can take off the queen. So that's not really going to work. So the question is if I do take and he moves away, do I have a different idea? Like, what if I just promote and call check with the queen? The rook can take it. I don't have a follow-up. Okay. That's a bad time to get stuck on a puzzle. I can take out the rook. In a game, I probably would just take out the rook because it's defended, and then I can bring my other rook in, and then I would have more of an attack going, is what I would do in a real game. But this is a puzzle. I just stop checkmate. I guess I can force his knight to move back, but I don't really see the point. He can just move back here, and then I can't really take it, and then I don't have this anymore. So I don't like it. I really don't. This is the most forcing move, so I'm going to go ahead with this. I don't know the puzzle, but I'm going to go ahead anyways for the sake of time. I don't edit these, so that was correct. I still don't see the follow-up, so I don't even know what to do after that. It could have very well been a blunder, so I just got lucky. And you kind of don't want to do that when you play your games. That'd be pretty bad. Unless you absolutely have to. All right, here's check captures threats. First and foremost, I know it's the king in the corner. So I'm like, okay, my piece is here. I'm attacking him. So now I got to figure out what to do, right? So he can't move here. He can't move here. And so now it's like if I come and check, it'd be checkmate, right? But this is defense. This is obviously could be captured. But if I move this out the way, call check with the knight, that would be checkmate. Surprised that they did this one because it's a really low level and most people have a hard time checkmating with knights and bishops. I think you kind of get there around, I forget. I think you start learning. I think people start getting comfortable with that around 12, 1300, I think. I'm not sure. All right. Move over. He moves over. I move. He takes. I take. He moves. I move. And I promote first. So basically, that's pretty much it. For these, a lot of times you just look at like what's defended, what can be captured, and who can promote faster. And a lot of this is just calculation. So unless you learn like opposition and stuff like that, which is really difficult for a lot of people, especially distant opposition. That's really difficult. Black to move. Okay, so my pawn, let's say he moves, we can count. People like have this thing called the rule of square, I guess. It's like this is 4n and this is 4n. So it's like, squares obviously equal on all sides, right? And basically, if I move up and the king can't get into the square, which he can't, you win, right? But if the king was here, for example, and you make a queen, you take it, right? And even though there's two pawns and two pawns, it doesn't matter because this is a passed pawn. If he takes it, you just take it back, and the same thing. It doesn't change a thing. So. All right, checks, captures, and threats is kind of what you look for. First thing I notice is these two here, king pretty exposed, so I'm thinking it's a checkmate. How do I go about it? Well, if I call it check and he moves over, I call it check and he moves over, I call it check, and he can't go anywhere. Can't back this way because these are pieces. He can't go here because of the queen, and he can't move forward because the queen has all these covered. So it's checkmate, check, check, and it's a 3-move checkmate. All the moves are forced. So one important thing to understand is forcing moves. Checkmate in 1. My first thought obviously is the king's pretty exposed. There's the f7 is weak. The queen can go on there, it's guarded, and it's basically me. So black to move. First thing I notice is that the king is not really defended, and these are together. So now I can calculate. This will be check. He'll move away. And I can't go here because the bishop, but I can go to h2 and that'll be mate. So it's perfectly fine. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. Let's see here. I really am a little unsure. I noticed the king's like in the center, and you got these rooks around it, the knight and the bishop, and if like the king really has nowhere to go, right? And I don't see a way to put him in check immediately. Oh yeah, there is. What am I doing? Since all these squares are covered, that also means this square is covered. So the rook can go right here. That's checkmate. All right. Yeah, before I look for moves for my tactics, I like to use my intuition and look at around a bit. Like for here, this is a weak square. He moved up one, so now I'm looking for how to attack him. All right, so now I can calculate. Now that I see a weak spot in his position, so it's my intuition. I know this is it. This is why you need to learn a lot of chess principles and rules, and that's why in group I share 5 chess principles a day, because I'm trying to get lots of rules and stuff. Like they explain the f7, F2 square are weak squares. This is what it means. So basically, if I move the queen in and call check, well, if the king moves up and move the queen here, it'd be checkmate because the king can't go anywhere and he's in check and he can't be captured the queen. So that's checkmate, right? But he's not going to do that. He's going to move the pawn up to defend, right? So I can take the pawn and I'm threatening to take the rook. So because of that, he's just going to take it. And I'm just going to take the rook anyways. But it's going to be a rook for a knight instead of a free rook. So, all right, white to move. All right, first thing I noticed is the king's cut off. This is cut off. He has one escape square, just one. So, and I have 3 minor pieces. He only has the queen. So now I have to look at how can I attack him. And it's perfectly fine if I had to sacrifice something because he has just the queen. And I'll win if I did. So the first thing I noticed is I can't really do a really close check. So now I got to calculate. This is a check that I noticed that is safe for me to do. He can maybe, let's go with different ideas that he can do. If he defends, I can call it check. We only have 2 different squares. So that'd be check, move, check. And after that, let's say if he goes right here, that'd be checkmate. King can't move forward. There's also check, check. If he goes down instead, let's say he goes to G8, I can call it check this way. Looks like a lot of work, to be honest. I don't like this. Check. That's really a lot of work. I don't like this puzzle. It's stupid. There's so much going on, and I just go with it. If I was playing a fast game, I would have probably checkmated him, even without seeing it fully. He just had too much going on, and I didn't feel like sitting here trying to figure it all out. Black to move. This is check. Everything's covered. All right, the white king has no squares to go. He can't go here right now. He can't go here. He can't go here or here. But once it's in check by the queen, he can't even go here either. And the queen can't be captured, so that's mate. He's pretty surrounded. Checks, captures, and threats. If I take and he takes, I can take threatening the queen, but all right. There's a little weirdness going on in the middle here. So yeah, if I take and he takes this way, I can just take and then I win the bishop. So he's not going to capture this way. He can capture this way. And this is a free bishop. I don't want to take this way because he can pin it. In a real game, I would just take with the queen. And that's a free bishop. And if he takes, then I'll be up a piece. That's fine with me. And that's about it. That's pretty simple. And yeah, he did the other one. So here, a mistake would be taking because he just take back. So this is, he gave me a chance to make an error. When you calculate captures like this, he's going to lose a piece regardless. But the other way wasn't really risky. This way is risky. So I might make a mistake. And like, let's say I want to save my bishop, move out the way. And then he moves it out the way. And then nothing happens, right? So it's he gave me a chance to make an error, which is nice. You kind of want to learn how to do that when you do tactics in your own games. You've learned to make it easier for opponent to make an error. So here we go, black to move. Black to move. If I call it check this way, after the king moves, I have a free queen. So it doesn't matter if he moves over to take the knight. It's not going to be checkmate. I win the queen. So that's pretty good. Yeah. All right. I wasn't expecting any more to this puzzle, to be honest, so I didn't look any more into it because to me it was pretty much over. But in this situation here, the king is pretty well surrounded by his own pieces. He can't really move very much. And this square right here is only defended by the queen. So if I move my rook in and move my queen to attack it, I'm pretty sure I'd be breeding pretty well. I may even win the knight. So that's what I would do in the game. Ooh. I guess there was something more better than that, than winning the knight. All right, let's see if I can see it. Check, he moved over, I took the queen. After I took the queen, he took the knight. Oh, the pawn at the bottom. They probably just want me to capture the pawn and prevent any issues. Because that other one that I attacked wasn't going anywhere, and I could have waited a turn. So that's probably what it was. It's probably the pawn. All right. The queen is attacking my rook. His king's alone. I can't just like pin it because I'll just lose it. I can call it check and move my. I can literally check him indefinitely if I really needed to. I think I have to because he has more pawns than I do. So like if I traded at all, it'd probably be bad for me. But can he actually force it by coming down this way? Yeah, he can force it. Oh, I have an idea. If I call check and he moves up, and then I call check, and then he moves up, and I call check. If he moves down, I can perpetual. If he moves up more, I can call check, taking the queen. So it's a perpetual, but it was a perpetual. Unless he wanted me to go this way immediately. It was the same thing, just one move later. That's kind of stupid. That'd be like seeing mate in 5, but you have mate in 4 and the puzzle's wrong. You know, it's like I called check, he moved up. I called check, he moved up. I could have moved over one immediately. What I did would have taken one more turn. That's stupid. All right. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. Well, I noticed the king's kind of blocked off, but I have no way to really attack it immediately. He has no way to attack me either, and I can't just take because the queen. But there's nothing else going on besides this in the position, really. There's really not much going on besides this. Nothing else is really that active. So if I'm with a queen here, I'll be attacking his bishop twice. If he moves a bishop out the way, that's checkmate. And that's pretty much what it looks like to me. I don't see anything else going on. All right. Obviously, I'm not going to take because the bishop is still here. So even though I knew a checkmate threat existed, sometimes people were to have a plan and just keep doing a plan even though everything's different. Like if he moved the bishop out the way this mate, he did not. He moved the pawn up, so therefore it's not mate. So therefore, if I go here, there's a blunder. I don't understand why people do that when they have a plan. When you're playing something different, your plan you have to recalculate everything because that move can change things, and this move changed it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the bishop for free. I won't take it with my rook, obviously, because I just want a queen. So, all right. Now, wait to move. The first thing I noticed is my queen's under attack. I have a check here, so I can actually call a check, and without worrying about my queen immediately, he had to move over. But I don't have a good follow up. I mean, I can take his rook and lose my rook, you know. So it's not that. It looks like I can just take his rook here, and if I take it, it also will be a check with this rook. Because, yeah. And this is here. So if I call it check, the king would move over. Because if the king went over here, I would just take another pawn and call it check again. and he's in a worse spot because it's opening up the position even more. So this is the first move for sure. He'll come in, and then my queen can go right here for a mate. He'll move down, and then it'll be mate. So, all right. Checks, captures, threats. Sometimes I used to feel like it was useless to stop the puzzle immediately, but in truth, it's almost like somebody resigning. Like I used to get upset because I'm like, I figured out this whole entire sequence just for them to like stop. But then again, in games, the same thing happens. You can look a whole sequence and they can just resign. All right, first thing I noticed is that the king's kind of in danger really. The bishop's attacking it. This bishop is taking care of all these squares, so the king really has nowhere to go except for this square right here if he's in check. So, and this is pinned. So if I now let's calculate. Now if I call a check and he moves over one, I actually can't call a check again. And if he moves back, I can call a check. And after he moves forward, I can call a check and he can move back. And here is, I can call it check and take a pawn and him move back. Me call check again. And then me take, I can't take the other pawn because the knight, well, actually I can because he'd be in check, move it back. And then with my rook over here, call check, and then take the rook. Like I literally can take 4 pawns and his rook with a windmill attack. I don't know what they're exactly looking for, but to me, I think that's it. Okay, so I kind of miscalculated a tiny bit. After here, he takes here. So what am I doing now? Well, I can call check, and he moves up, call check again, and then take his rook. So basically, I seen a nice sequence that was prevented by a capture that I didn't notice, but it was still good though. It was still good. All right, black to move, checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. Black to move. The first thing I notice is that this king is exposed. So now, and I have 2 rooks, right? And he's about to make a queen and check at the same time, checkmate. That's what his move is. So I have to make a move that is forcing and it makes him do something. So I have to do a check. That's immediately. Now this check over here be useless. And he checks around here because the king can just move around and then eventually hide behind all this stuff. Like he can just move around, right? But if I call a check over here, he would be forced to capture the pawn or move back. And all these is covered. And no matter where the king goes, I can call a check this way. So it's check. Let's say he moves down. Check. He can block with the queen. If I take the queen, he'll take back. My king would have to come over, attacking his pawn. So then I will basically win. So it's a lot, but all right. Checks, captures, and threats. White to move. His king's exposed. It's very this is a lot of pawns, but his king's very vulnerable. I mean, not exposed. My king's exposed. His king is vulnerable. Now, if I call check this way, and he were to take, my queen can come here and call mate. All right. The next thing I know is if I call check, and he doesn't take, he can actually just move back. Really. Let's say he does that. Now, what would I be able to do from here? I can call check with the rook, sack the rook, take it, call check, move back, and call mate. So I have mate either way. It doesn't matter what he did. This one's a longer way, so that was more accurate for him. White to move. Well, this looks very similar to the other one. I can call it check. I kind of looked really similar to the other one. I call it check, and he moves over, but I don't have the same mating pattern. I mean, I can go up one right here. Yeah, actually, I do have the same mating pattern. Now that I have the mating pattern, Can he counter anything? Well, he can. It doesn't matter what he does. I can just call it checkmate. He can take the rook, take the pawn. Okay. So he has no defense. All right. Checks, captures, threats. First thing I notice is that I can just take his rook. The problem is that I'm not going to win the game. All right. If I take out the pawn, this is threatening checkmate. So he would have to move back to block. I can call it check. He can take. Not liking this too much. Yeah, if I just take the rook, he would just take my knight. And that's it. I can take here. He can block. If I call check this way, he can just take it with. Let's see here. If I take, he blocks. I call check. I don't really see a way to hold it. I really don't see a way to hold this. So, I'm a little slow, a little bit. If I take, he can't move down because I'll just take the knight. So this is it. I don't need the bishop here, so I'm gonna take it. All right. That was a little confusing for some reason. All right, wait to move. The first thing I noticed is my king is very exposed. That's the first thing I noticed. His king looks very safe actually. So it's a little confusing to see a puzzle like this for white to move when my king is so vulnerable and exposed and his is not. Now, the first thing I noticed, that's the first thing I noticed. And I got to calculate a little bit of what to do here. And I only have very few legal moves because I'm in check. So because of that, I'm going to have to find a way to defend. And because I have to defend as a puzzle, I've noticed that his queen doesn't have any squares really. The only square the queen has that's safe is the a5 square. So, hello, AP. If I block with the bishop and attack the queen, the queen will literally have only one square to go left, right? That's it. Can't even take this right here because of knight. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'll be attacking the queen. The queen will have to come down. And I got to figure out from there what to do after that. Bam. Come down. It's a really weird defensive puzzle. Yeah. Oh, this is a very common pattern. I feel really dumb. This is a very common pattern. Basically, after I move my bishop here, it is defending the rook. The rook is defending the knight, and the knight is defending the bishop. And the queen can't move up because this is covered. We already got this established. And the queen, on top of all that, can't go here because of the knight and can't go here because of the rook. So it's completely trapped. Yeah, that's a very common trap. This is why I'm gonna go back to it. You see that B pawn that after I blocked the bishop that he took? In the group, I share every once in a while, do not capture the B pawn with the queen. I say that every once in a while, like be mindful of it. And this is why it's an actual common trap that a lot of people fall for that are unaware of it. And you got to see it in action if you watched the video. If not, you're always going to be wondering The people who did not see the video are always going to be wondering why. I can explain it to them, but it's different than seeing it in person. All right, black to move. The first thing I notice is that I'm very vulnerable. My king's exposed, and I'm in check. So I got to take care of that first. So this is more of a defensive puzzle. The way to block check, I have a couple. I can my bishop, my knight, right? Now, out of all those options, my bishop's under attack right now. So if I move my knight in the way, then obviously, well, if I do that, that'd be checkmate. This knight is guarding checkmate. So this knight's not going to block. This knight, if I did decide to block with this knight, this is under attack. So I think it'd be better off if I have my bishop out the way to defend. That's what makes most sense to me. Everything else to me looks like it's going to be bad. Another thing is that if I defend with my knight, I also have a check, right? So two ideas, bishop back and moving my knight out the way for a check, right? So now I have to calculate them both. There's not much to calculate here. I mean, they can be trades. This right here is most forcing, so it'll be easier to calculate. After I call check, the king will be forced to move, and this is not, he can't move there because of the knight. And it doesn't matter where he moves, the queen going here to be checkmate. So this is actually a counterattack. This is check and checkmate. And that was really brutal. Yeah, that's why it's very important when you're in check not to just move and try to stop the check. You have to sometimes get counterattacks and sometimes get tactics and try to look at ways to be aggressive. Because you can miss lots of opportunities by playing passive when you're in check. Now here, black to move. The first thing I notice is that I only have two pieces versus all this. So I'm going to guess that my job in there is probably get a stalemate, somehow to get a stalemate in this position. That's what I would probably go for in a game. So right now, I would probably want to prevent him from doing checks and bringing the pawns in. And this queen right now is preventing that square. And I definitely don't want him to move the pawn up and have my king move down. And then pretty much that'd be mate if I did that, And if I came over this way and check, I want to prevent any of this type of shenanigans. So how do I go about doing all that? Well, I'm already defending the square, and the only thing I'm worried about is this check. So pretty much I'm guessing right now is moving the queen in. And I say move the queen in for check. If he blocks, well, I can very easily go back and call check, and the king would be forced to move. And I can probably try to do perpetual that way. If I call check, and let's say he moves a pawn, then I would be forced to find a different way to go about it. And I believe this is right here will be a check. And if he comes out, I can try to perpetual that way. And if he tries to do something else, move the pawn down, I can just call check. So this right here looks like the safest route. Yeah, queen to d5 looks like it's the safest route to go. There's too much to calculate, and if you're in a game and you have lots of time on your clock, you want to calculate. If not, you can use your intuition to go ahead. Hopefully I got it right. And that's not it. All right. That was actually pretty nice. There's a very good chance this is another way to go about it. But, all right. I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed it. Trying to do a little bit of intuition and calculations and going about it and explain some of the stuff that I noticed with the chess principles and with puzzles and try to combine a little bit of patterns. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to get going now. All right. Take it easy and take care. Oh, don't be sorry. It's perfectly fine.